Welcome to this episode of Under the Tamarisk Tree, and thank you for listening. If we haven't met, my name is Phil Harwood. I'm a business attorney focused on succession planning, and I am the host of this podcast. Today, our special guest is Kelly Cousineau from the Owner's Outpost. Welcome, Kelly, and thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I'm pretty excited about what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, me too. So I hit your website, and it said that the Owner's Outpost is where trailblazing business owners go to prepare for life's next adventure. I love that. And I love the whole theme of your website and your branding. But tell us a little bit more about what that means.
Yeah, so the problem that we're solving, as I have worked for a few years in this field now, is to help the boomer business owners let go. If they can't let go, they end up ultimately sabotaging themselves. You know, they want to do it, but the fears or unknowns, the uncertainty of it all, I'll probably say this more than once, but as kings of their kingdom for 20 or 30 years, they're used to having control of everything. And this is not going to be the case going forward. They're going to enter into territory they've never been in before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So talk to me more about that. Like, what are some of the things that are holding these? Well, first of all, I think we should just come out and admit that we're both baby boomers, right?
And so, I know I am. You don't look like you are one, but I am.
I'm at the very tail end. I'm like one of the very last ones. So there's this thing that's happening about these boomers, and it's hard for them to let go. It really is. And I see it all the time where, I'm dealing with, I have clients in their 70s who are like, man, I feel good and things are going great. And I know I need to think about my future and I need to protect my family. And I know I can't be here forever. I get that, but I don't really know how to approach this. And I don't know what my time frame is. And I'm really not ready to, go play golf every day. And I wouldn't know what to do with myself. This is all I've ever known. And, I just hear this over and over and over again. And so I think this concept of not being able to let go is just so pervasive and really a obstacle to moving forward, to exiting. And then we both know, and I think everyone realizes, intellectually, they need to let go. And they need to let go. They probably, the other thing I hear all the time is, I know I should have let go 5 or 10 years ago. I just can't, or I haven't done it yet. So what are people not? What are some of the things people can't let go of? I mean, maybe that's a good question to chew on for a few minutes.
Yeah. So sometimes it's a favorite project. That can be an excuse. Well, when I get this project done, or it's a project that their company has never done before. A couple of my clients have both gone through that this year or last year where, well, I don't trust the next people to be able to do this project. It's the first time we've done one. Control, they really are, we are control freaks. I used to actually put a CF at the end of all my letters, control freak. Let's see, they don't want to give up decisions. They like having that control, especially if it's decisions about the clients, perhaps decisions about their employees. And I do think the hardest thing for them to let go of is the business. And I can't imagine, I haven't built a business like they have. I'm not in their shoes. I'm trained to work with people, so I don't have to have experience all of it, although I watched my mom go through it. And that letting go of who's going to take care of her clients the way she did. And I finally had to tell her, I said, Mom, nobody will take care of them the way you did.
Right.
But at this point, you have a chance to somewhat help them. I'll talk more about that later. But anyway, It's all of that. And that's their baby. I was in a meeting with a client and his attorney yesterday. They're just starting the steps to transition it to his son. He started with $7,000. It's worth $2 million now.
Wow.
Like, how do you let go of that?
Yeah, right. It's your baby. Yeah. Who's going to take care of my baby? Yeah. No one's going to do it the way you do it. It's going to
Yeah.
be different.
Yeah, I want to bring up one more thing. The comment that you had made when you were reflecting off of the problem that I'm solving in terms of letting go, and you described all of these things. What I like to think of that is the change. They are changing where they go to work every day. They're changing who the people they hang out with every day. They're changing where their income comes from. Sometimes they might even be changing where they live. All of these things are changing. And the concept of letting go, as humans, we have a tendency to look back all the time at what I'm letting go, like, oh, or leaving, right? And it's that separation. Whereas you said it's easy for the outsiders, for us to look at that person and say, well, it's just logical, you should let go. Well, they know that too, but they're just stuck here. And as change needs us to look forward. So if anybody here ever wants to help somebody work through their own change, even their own change, just remind them to look forward and help them turn their head from looking back to what they're losing, leaving, letting go, and look forward to where they're going.
Well, I want to get into these 4 areas that we talked about as in our preparation for our podcast interview, but just kind of big picture, just what is it what is it that you do? It sounds like you're creating a safe space for people to come and unprepared, perhaps, and start addressing this transition that they know they need to take, but they're scared to embark on. Is that, put it in your own words? I'm probably destroying your brand here.
No, that's okay.
Let me let you talk.
No, that's okay. I think it could be overwhelming, right? There's a lot. Just like I said, there's a lot of things to let go of. There's a lot of things to do to get ready. And so I try to keep it as simple as possible. And the first thing we start with is owner freedom. We have to free you up, because it's possible a business owner is actually too involved in the business, and that will discount the value of their business. Somebody doesn't want to come in and buy a business that's totally dependent on the owner. But it's also difficult for us to free you up enough to actually have time to increase the value, which is what we do next. So we start by figuring out how to free you up a little bit, which hopefully you will love. Then we take that extra time and we work on how can we increase the value of your business. And there are known drivers out there. There's all kinds of assessments, and we know what acquirers are looking for. So we start putting more effort into that. And then we work on the next adventure. So the whole theme of my brand of Owners Outpost is there's another adventure. If you're an entrepreneur, you've been living an adventure, and I can't imagine you going home and sitting on the couch for the rest of your life. So we practice with that. And that's where, in having other owners in the same room, I have a mastermind format. It's fun to listen to. Well, I tried this and this is what happened. Golf is a pastime, in my opinion. Some people would probably think of it as an adventure. And then we also work on personal growth. And certainly it turns out that it's the boomer generation is what I would call the now, if I refer to the now generation. And the next generation, there's always a now and a next. It just happens that we're the boomers right now. And so we work a little bit on personal growth and understanding the different values in the different generations, because it can be very frustrating for a boomer to say, but they this and they don't that, and all of these they statements, and helping them grow into a different kind of leader. You're no longer the one that's doing all the work. You're the one that's stepping back and equipping people to do that for you.
So are you doing most of your work in a group setting, or is it one-on-one, or is it a combination?
It's a combination. Most of it, I believe the greatest value comes in the group, because as much as I have skills to help you face change and things like that, I can do that in a group as well. Sometimes there are things that are relatively private, so we certainly can have private coaching calls anytime we want.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And do you work with people in a certain geographic area, or are you open to working with anyone, anywhere?
I like to say that I'm a boomer, and so I have my own box that I like to live in. I like to live in the Midwest. I love people who have the same values that I do, who speak English, and who are in my
Mm-hmm.
time zone.
Mm-hmm.
So in general, that's where I am. I would never turn anyone away
Sure.
unless they can't speak English. And I
I
have had,
understand.
because of family, I've had clients farther away, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Sure. Okay. No, just wanted to ask. So, obviously my firm does business valuation, and that connection between the owner's involvement in your first point of owner freedom, giving up things, letting go of things, starting with one thing at a time, over time, letting go, and
Mm-hmm.
how that impacts business valuation is so important. And I've probably discussed this on every podcast I've had with every single guest. But
Mm-hmm.
how do you approach that? How do you, when you have an owner who's, has a million things that they do, they're working, probably more than they want to, and doing a lot of the tasks that they probably don't want to be doing. Maybe they delegated them and took them back, because no one can do it right. Where do you start? Like, how do you decide what's, and maybe give us an example of like something an owner could maybe an easy one, some low hanging fruit that they could give up that would begin the process of giving things up. Like, where do you start?
Yeah. Well, I have an example of a client who had, he does sewer, septic, and drain cleaning, and then he has excavating as well, because oftentimes they have to install a new septic or dig up a line or something. And he was the only one in the shop who knew how to do that excavating, and he ran every job and had to be there all the time. And again, he knew this was a problem because he was the only one who could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started helping him. Well, let's come up with a way to document it, and let's start teaching other people. And so that was a way of identifying something that only you know how to do. Oh my goodness,
Mm-hmm.
that's for sure a place to start, even if it's one of the hardest.
Yeah.
Another thing that I help them with, and this client is actually the same client, he would get so frustrated because, as you said, they make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a coach, I get to gently remind them or ask them, so 34 years ago, when you started this business, did you ever make mistakes?
That's a great question.
Well, I guess I did.
Mm-hmm.
And so helping them understand that mistakes happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's part of learning.
The other dynamic here is, and just as you were talking, it made me think of it, is, most of my consulting clients, I've been doing consulting work for about 20 years, have almost every one of them have said something along the lines of, I don't need someone to tell me what to do. I know what I need to do. I just am not going to do it unless I'm paying someone to force me to do it. And so it's just this accountability relationship of saying, all right, I know, I recognize I'm the only person that knows how to dig this septic and put it in properly. I know I need to train someone. I've known that for 20 years. But I'm not going to do it unless I hire Kelly and she forces me to do it because I'm going to pay her. And I don't want to waste my money.
Yeah.
And it's just this interesting dynamic that business owner, who's going to hold the business owner accountable? Their spouse, their kids, their employees. There's no one around them who can really hold them accountable. And that's a problem.
Right. Well, and I want to make it a little simpler than just accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And accountability helps, obviously, but I think it's big, and there's, I hate to use words like this, but there's this emotional component that because the owner is afraid it's not really going to work, afraid nobody's going to do it, like they end up avoiding it and never even thinking about how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so helping them break that down and say, okay, well, who on your team right now is the closest? Like, who could we start talking to? And helping them break it down just a little bit at a time to make them see it's possible, because otherwise it's overwhelming, and then they never do anything, and they don't even think about it. They don't give their brain the time to think about it. So I do want to give every owner out there all the credit. They do know how. It's just that they're stuck and not even going there. And sometimes it's nice to have somebody else from the outside. That was one of my background questions, is I have a lot of process work.
Mm-hmm. those within the context of those mastermind groups, when we're talking about this, when your participants are talking about, your clients are talking about owner freedom, giving things up, in this whole conversation we're having, is the discussion tactical in nature? Like, here's how I did it, and here's what we're doing, and here's what works, and here's what doesn't work, or is it more of a therapy session about, oh, we're all in this boat together and it's okay and it's all good, and, or is it a mix?
Yeah, I would
How would you
say
describe it?
there's there's not a lot of how they've done it because they're all figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
So I hesitate to use the word therapy, but I know a lot of people think of it that
I
way.
understand.
It
Yeah, it was kind
really
of tongue in
is.
cheek, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. They there's a lot of, but these young owners don't know how, these new owners, they don't know how to own a business. And
Mm-hmm.
this is the beauty of me being a boomer. And I can say, but you've never taught them how to own a business. And so that's what they can encourage each other. They can have that camaraderie of, okay, well, at least I'm not the only one
Mm-hmm.
who's facing this. So I think that's where the value and what happens in there is their ability to admit this is really hard. Oh, I'm so glad it's hard for you too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, totally. So I want to shift gears and talk about the next adventure in personal growth. So kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm picturing this as more like, okay, what am I going to do with myself afterward, right? So
Mm-hmm.
talk to us about this. How does this work? How do you help people figure this out?
Well, we have, if I were to dive into some private coaching, I've done private coaching even with corporate executives who are boomers, because this is what they have in common with business owners is they've been married to their job and they have no idea who they are outside of their job. In fact, with my husband, I used to say, honey, it's okay that you work all the time. It's just your hobby. So they don't necessarily have a lot of other hobbies.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an open conversation as well. And even as people take vacations, then we'll talk about it. Like one of my clients had the opportunity this year to go over to Scotland and play golf on the old course, like 10 days in a row. And
Oh, cool.
he didn't get to play on the old course because it's a lottery and he didn't win, but he played on like 6 or 7 courses
Mm-hmm.
over there. And so that just invokes travel and lets people relax and start thinking about that next phase of life. Another client has a cabin up in the woods in Michigan, and he talks about how his grandkids come up there and how he really loves that. The septic and sewer gentleman, he has a big motorhome, and he would love to go and do cleanup chasing these natural disasters.
Oh.
But what came up there, which we get to talk about as well, is that his wife didn't necessarily want to do that. And so we talk a little bit about, right now it happens that my clients are all men and so they all have wives, but
Mm-hmm.
as a wife, I can relate to that and say, you should be telling her a little bit now. Don't wait till 2 weeks before you're done and say,
Mm-hmm.
this is what we're going to do. Give her a time to
Mm-hmm.
get into it. We use some interesting language that I've picked up. I didn't coin it. One is practicing retirement.
Mm.
We have some clients that go to Florida or go
Mm-hmm.
south for a few months, which
Yes.
has got a double benefit because of that owner freedom, right? We figure out what they're
Mm-hmm.
no longer, how the business is still dependent on them.
Sure. No, I think that's really important. And, it's something I'm always talking with about my clients, saying, look, wouldn't it be better if you turned over the reins to your 30-something-year-old child or your key employee now while you're still here,
Mm-hmm.
and you still have
Yeah.
your faculties and you can provide coaching and support? Wouldn't that be a better scenario for you to be
Mm-hmm.
kind of the fly on the wall and just pop in once a week and look at the scorecards and say hi to everyone, shake hands, kiss babies, and leave? Wouldn't that be better
Yep.
than you holding on till your bitter end and then everyone has to try to figure it out after you're gone? Like,
Right.
that's a way better scenario.
Right.
I love the practicing retirement idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
What if someone's just stuck and they're like, I just can't think of anything. I don't want to play golf. I don't want to travel. My wife doesn't want to do anything. What am I going to do with myself? Have you had one of those?
Well, I don't know that I have yet. I mean, what I do have is that they love their work so much, so
Mm-hmm.
they're still not ready to think about the next step.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I have one gentleman who's now, I think when he started working with me, he was 55. So now he's probably 57 or 58. And he insists regularly that he's not a boomer. I'm not a boomer, but he has this big gray beard. And so he wants to keep working for a while. But it's just, there are things that we can talk about. What are you passionate about? And, what have you enjoyed in the past? And it's really, again, I think just opening up the mind and getting it to relax, to say it's possible I could find something in the future. Because as long as you believe that there's nothing, then there won't be anything.
Yeah. I even think, for some people that are, maybe in an executive role or have a lot of employees and have all that stress, maybe what they need to do, and if the only thing they ever want to do for the rest of their life is work, maybe they just need to start a new business,
Exactly.
a solo business, a consulting firm, go to law school, go become a lawyer, go work for a volunteer, a nonprofit, and plow yourself into that without a salary or with a salary. That can be an 80-hour-a-week job if you want it to be.
Oh, yeah. Or working with your grandchildren. This is something we're looking at with a nice little piece of equity in a foundation. And how do I teach and instill values in my grandchildren to evaluate nonprofit organizations or go on mission trips and things like that.
Yeah. No, totally. Okay. Let's see. Did we cover the personal growth area, or is there more to talk about there?
I can just add briefly that I do have a different group in my mastermind container in the Outpost where I have the young people, not one-to-one, all of them. And they, for the most part, have all been working for their parent or a parent of the partner for probably 15 years. And they haven't been exposed to a lot of the personal growth or leadership tools that corporate America provides. So we do a lot of work there as well, helping, equipping them. And in fact, recently, my now generation, I had asked the question, I said, how did you become a leader? In fact, I can't remember how the question is worded. And after they all shared, it came down to, it happened to them. They have no idea. And so I said, so how are we going to equip the next generation if all you think is it happened to you? How are you going to happen it to them? And one of them said, well, that's why I have you. And so that's kind of what we're trying to do is there's a lot of leadership development for the younger people as well, to help them face firing a person or, some of those hard things. Yeah. Or leading people who are older than they are, because that's often the case.
Right. No, that's really huge. How did you get into this line of work, Kelly? What inspired you to do this? You strike me as an intelligent person. You could do it probably anything you want. So why this?
My education is in engineering, and I went into process improvement and a lot of adult education, teaching people. And I did most of my work in manufacturing and in corporate America. And as time went on, people would say, oh, I know so many smaller business owners that could use your help. And I was always wondering, how do I do that? How do I do that? And so God, I believe, led me down these steps. And the first was to become a coach. So where I had been a facilitator often of teams in corporate America, I learned how to coach one person. And my goal was to help them implement all the things that I know how to do in their smaller company. And then when I came out of coach training and said, okay, now I have to build this business, one of the people that I networked with, he was very diving into this field of exit planning, and that sparked it. And then I looked back again to see God's work. He's a little quiet with me, so I don't always see it at the moment, but the last position my husband held was he was hired to help a small business get ready to sell. And so I was able to walk that process with him, including the fact that that particular business did not sell. So I know all of that experience. As I mentioned, my mom had a business and I watched her go through selling the business. My whole family was entrepreneurs, so I have a lot of that. So it's just like God I
Mm-hmm.
think prepared me.
Mm-hmm.
I have skills and I have enough experience, and I'm a boomer, right?
Yes.
So I don't know when you look, but when I was younger, I thought I was a Gen X, and I think they moved. I think God, excuse me, I think God moved that timeline so I can
Mm.
speak truth to boomers.
Well, no, thank you for that. So you mentioned God several times in that conversation there, and we've spoke before about our shared faith, our Christian background faith, and how important that is to us. And I just want to comment that I appreciate you bringing that up because it's such an important factor here, not only with you and I, but with anyone listening to us as they're considering their future and what this next adventure is. I mean, we really need to be um, open to a calling from the Lord and saying, how can you use me? You've equipped me with all
Mm-hmm.
these
Yep.
experiences, these skills, this education. What am I supposed to be doing? And how can I be valuable to society and to my community, to my family? um, what am I going to do with myself? And I think if that's our posture, we really can't go wrong. So to me,
Right.
it's just seek the Lord, be open to his calling. And sometimes it's going to be a crazy thing. I mean, I never thought I was going to go to law school. And 5 years ago, I looked at my wife one day and I said, I think I should go to law school. And she looked at me, she goes, okay, that makes sense. And then, all my high school buddies went, you're crazy. What are you doing? Because they just all want to retire and play golf. But, you know, I don't want to retire and play golf. I'm going to
No.
keep going. And so, I just wanted to mention that it was on my mind. And I think it's just a really important thing for someone, especially who is if anyone who's listening is a person of faith, like that's, to me, that's number one. Get on your knees,
Yes.
seek the Lord, and be open.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I have just a little comment to add to that. Back in 2015, the Lord led me to redefine work because at the time I wasn't working and I had lost my identity and my value. And it was to use your gifts and talents to love people and serve Him. And it was,
Mhm.
very in the context of seeing this retiring generation and knowing how much we value our work,
Mhm.
and that work does not have to be a job,
Mhm.
right? It's just using your gifts and talents and never stop. So
Mhm.
I don't want any boomer out there to think I have to stop working. You never have to stop
Mhm.
working,
Right.
especially if you define it that way.
Yeah.
You're just using your gifts and your talents to
Mhm.
serve God and love people.
Yeah. 100%. Kelly, what are some of the most rewarding aspects of what you do?
Well, certainly watching my clients admire their own ability to let go. At
Mhm.
the end of every year, we kind of have how did you grow or change this year? One year, a client said, well, at the beginning of the year, my business was my baby, but now I see it as an asset. It's something
Mhm.
that has value that he can pass on. One of my clients said, well, I can see that I'm letting go. In the younger group, there was a now generation in that younger group, and he was able to speak into one of the young men, and he said, at the beginning of the year, everything we encouraged you to try this and try that, you would say, oh, Sam won't let me do that, Sam won't let me do that, meaning the father. And he
Mhm.
said, now at the end of the year, you're like running everything. And so just to watch that growth and to be able to tell them, because they don't see it, right? They're in it. And I
Mhm.
can say, oh, but this is how you've grown and this is how you've changed.
Yeah. No, that's good. Thank you. Um, we may have addressed this question, but I just want to ask it directly. Who's an ideal client for you?
Oh, um, the geographic region is the Midwest,
Mhm.
and they are primarily service businesses.
Mhm.
And I have a bulk in the trades industry, but I have a CPA, and I actually have a woman who's now she owns a therapy practice. So they're all
Mhm.
services, and they have 10 to 30 employees.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
that's pretty much it. And they
Yeah.
probably were the founder. They probably had
Mhm.
it 20 years. So it's a
Mhm.
little harder to let go of than
Mhm.
something they just acquired 5 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. All right, great. If someone wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way to find you? What's your website address? That type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So right now, ownersoutpost.com is
Hmm.
probably the easiest way, and just click the contact page and it'll give you a form to send
Hmm.
me. Or you could write me at Kelly at Conquer Change Coach. So as I've said, this is all
Okay.
about
Yeah.
change in your life.
Yeah.
So Conquer, Conquer,
Okay. All right, great.
change.com.
Is
And
there
Kelly is with
any?
a Y.
Okay, great. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to share with our listeners before we wrap up?
Um, one moment, please.
Give it the last word. All right, we'll edit that out. I'll ask you that again. Okay.
Okay.
I'm just gonna go 3, 2, 1. Is there anything else you want to share with our listeners before we wrap up, Kelly?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. I'll try to be really quick.
Hmm.
If you're a business owner and you're used to being king of your kingdom, exiting is probably out of your comfort zone. And that's okay. You've never done it before. So I just want to normalize that. But remember, you're resilient and you're courageous and you've solved every imaginable problem. So I invite you to think of this as just another challenge.
Hmm.
The other thing is, please don't wait. This is the thing that only you can do. If you're not around or able, no one else can do it for you, and they certainly can't do it as well as you can. And then the third thing is a caution for boomers, particularly, we're very thrifty. And so we believe this is a value. If I can do it myself, why would I hire somebody else to do it?
Hmm.
And so I remind you of the fact that you probably hire a professional to do your taxes every year because you know that they know things you don't know and they're way more efficient at it.
Hmm.
So those are probably my three cautionary tales. And
Awesome.
then something I didn't mention under next adventure that I'm going to just slip in here
Hmm.
is that that's one of my visions for the future of Owners Outpost is because owners are going to have much more time and a lot of money and they've probably had to leave a lot of their friends. We're going to get them together so they can hang out with each other.
Hmm.
So that's the next phase of Owners Outpost is
Hmm.
creating these communities of owners who want to go do fun things together.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your insight. And I would encourage all of our listeners to check out ownersoutpost.com and book a time to chat with Kelly and see if she can help you.
Thank you,
Take
Phil. It's
care,
been
Kelly.
wonderful. Thanks for taking the time.
You're
Bye.
welcome. Bye bye.